Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Welcome to The Long Road. I'm your host, Chris Roberts. And I know I stated last week I was going to do some other stuff on the school funding around the country and stuff and the quality of the education. But after all my cancer treatment and radiation, I went back to work yesterday and I just didn't have enough time to put all the slides and everything together. So I'm going to talk about a few other things. One is a subject in the city. Right now, the city is putting its budget together, which they will approve next month. And one of the things that we were told when we were getting the budget together is that our evaluations right now, on the last evaluation 3 years ago, the company that did the evaluations, they kind of made a mistake. They decided the houses and property in Keene were not going to go up. And due to that, right now, the state of New Hampshire assessment department has determined that the city of Keene's value is basically, last time I checked, was just recently, was 72.8% of actual value. So what does that mean? Basically, whatever the actual value of the property in the city, that value has to transfer over to utilities. So like telephone poles, different things that the utilities get taxed on. Well, so what happened was that the 72.8% of value basically reduced the claimable value or the taxable value of the utility property by almost 28%. So what does that mean to us? Well, it means that the utilities companies had to pay about $200,000 less in property tax because they cannot be assessed at the full value. So one of the issues that we talked about in the budget in front of the Finance Committee is, do we go in and say, hey, do we move up the assessment so we can do it next year and get a much more accurate valuation on all the houses? Well, one of the areas that have increased in value is manufacturing housing. Manufacturing housing that could be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 prior to the pandemic could have almost doubled, in some cases more than doubled in the value over the last 4 years. So if we did the evaluation next year, their property values would go up, and in theory, the tax rate would go down, because what's supposed to do when you do the evaluation, you don't do the evaluation to collect extra money. You use the valuation so people are paying their fair share based on the value of their property. And so the committee said, nah, we don't think we should move it up ahead because that would not be fair to the people that live in manufacturing home. We can wait a year. So we're going to wait a year. And so next year, the utility companies will get a bigger tax break because the city assessor says waiting a year, we should go from 72.8 to maybe around 69 or maybe a little bit lower. While I'm in agreement that the people that live in manufactured homes and stuff would be at risk and they most likely would be paying more taxes, even thought the tax rate may go down. But if you live in a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 house, and that's only evaluated basically at 73%, and that house also increased to 7 to 10%, so that means some of our real wealthy people are going to get a tax break this year, and they'll get a tax break next year. So sometimes when people go say we're talking about worrying about the little guy, sometimes while we're protecting the little guy, sometimes, and a lot of times the big guys get some a bigger break. You know, if I save 3% on a $500,000 house, and you save 6% on a $125,000 manufactured home, I can argue all the time that you're getting a 6% break and I only get a 3% break. I'll take a 3% on a $500,000 home any day than a 6% on a 125. So, that's one of the things that was in the budget. The other thing we had to increase in the budget was the cost to shelter homeless, unhoused, whatever you want to call it, whatever is politically correct. Basically, people don't have a stable housing. And like I said before, because of the way the city got it, and they got some bonds and they got some benefits to build the 100-night shelter. The 100-night shelter is in a 211 network, and then anytime there's an opening, whoever's next on the list, no matter where they are, can be transferred and put into the 100-night shelter. And the city residents have no priority over anybody else. It depends when your call gets in. And so when the 100-night shelter is filled up, the city then has to house them, any homeless or unsheltered or person, and pay for that. So the city had a contract and was doing its best to keep the prices low, and the numbers go up, the numbers come down. I suspect during the summer months and everything, the numbers will be down, but of course they'll go back up during the winter. But when you look at the numbers and everything, the numbers give a tale, quote unquote. The official count is one day a year they go in and count all the homeless or at-risk people, and that's your official count. But looking at the numbers and everything, there's a lot of undercounting there. And so it's going to cost about $450,000 to $500,000 extra dollars in the budget to take care of that. Yes, the city is going to try to recoup money. So if you're from Swansea and you come to Keene and go to City Hall and say you're homeless and you tell the department that you're from Swansea, Swansea will get the bill. But what's going to be dependent on? It's going to be dependent on the people telling the truth. And so, and one of the issues that were brought up was affordable housing. I hear affordable housing over and over and over. Keene has been talking about affordable housing since I got back. I moved back to Keene in 2000. So here we are. We're going on at least 24 years of talking about affordable housing. Well, the Keene Housing Authority has a little bit more than 1,000 units. And some are in Keene, some are in Swansea, there's some in, I think there's one in Westmoreland, and there was a number of places where they're at. Some of the houses, I was looking at them, are age restricted, 62 and above. The whole unit, 62 and above. Some of them are 65 and above. Some are for disabled individuals. And so, but basically, you pay your rent. Some are on Section 8, other ones on other vouchers. Some of them are on vouchers that start at a level and they go on a sliding scale down for 2 years. And basically in 2 years, your voucher is nothing. And affordable housing. Affordable housing is based on the fact that you do not pay any more than 30% of your income on the rent. 30%. So if I go, I work 2,080 hours. And I make $27 an hour. That's $56,160. Times 0.3 is $16,848. Divided by 12. So that would mean anything that costs me $1,404 over the one. So if I had to pay $1,405 or more, that housing would not be affordable for me. That's at $27 an hour, $56,000 a year. $1,404. Okay, that's not a lot of money. Okay, and so if I take 56 times 0.0765, okay, I automatically take $4,284 off for Social Security. Then if I pay 10% tax, I take another $5,600. So that's $9,800. And say I work for the Keene School District, then I have to pay 7% to the state retirement. That's another $3,920. So that's 12,900. That's 13,800. 13. It's like a 56. Minus, so it's like that. So I got 56 minus, say, $14,000. Okay, 56 minus 14. I got $4,200 after that. So for that $4,200, that's all my living expenses. So my $4,200, so basically I would have to be $3,500 a month. And if I use 30% of my take-home pay, 30% would be $1,050. Tell me where you're going to get a halfway decent place in Keene for $1,050 or even $1,400. And say you get a place for $1,400. What about utilities? Are utilities included or not? Chances are, if you get a 2-bedroom place, and I've seen some about $1,400 for studios and stuff, or $1,400 for 1 bedroom, you get one of those, not too bad. You can, and most time, utilities are included. But some of the places you can rent an apartment around here in one of the old buildings for $1,400 a month. Say 2 bedrooms, $1,400 a month. You got a good deal. But oh yes, for $1,400 a month, you got to pay your own electricity, you got to pay your own water, you got to pay your own sewage, you got to pay your own trash. So all of a sudden, you don't have much. Then, you got to buy food, you got to have a car payment, you got to pay insurance. There's a whole bunch of things, and all of a sudden, you don't have much. And according to the federal government, for 100 extremely low-income housing, there are only 29 adequate, affordable, and available rental units. That means 2 parents who are working minimum wage job may wait years to find a safe, affordable place to live with their 2 kids. With such high demand, why aren't developers racing to build affordable housing? The part of the, let's see, 8 times 2 times 7.25. So you have 2 parents, both working minimum wage job. Both of them mean that they would be earning $15,000 a year in New Hampshire, and everyone has a right to have children. But $30,000 and 2 children, they would have to be some difficult choices. Okay. So we go 30,000 times 0.3 divided by 12. So if you have 2 parents or 2 people, so we got this example, the 2 parents work a minimum wage job and has 2 kids, okay, affordable housing for them is $750 or less. So in that case, most likely, if they have a boy and a girl, they're going to require a 3-bedroom apartment. 2 girls, 2 boys, you can get away with 2. Okay, so the problem is, who is going to build affordable housing if for a 3-bedroom you're only getting $750 a month, where maybe the going rate in the area is $1,500 a month? So that's one of the reasons people are not building the houses. The current standard is that a family should pay no more than 30% of its household income on rent. Anything more is no longer affordable. Like, for example, to make a unit affordable to an extremely low-income family of 3, you can charge no more than $540 a month. You could charge up to $1,081 from a family of 3 and still qualify for tax credits, but now you risk shutting out extremely low-income residents, like a parent of 2 children, earning $21,125 as a retail cashier. Well, I hear the term single mothers, and there's a lot of single mothers out there. But we should be out there hunting down the fathers of these children and making them pay. Because right now, if, for example, this family has $30,000, the rent is all they can pay is $750, and the going rent is $1,500. So if I want to build affordable housing, say in Keene, I have to go up to NIMBY, not in my backyard. I heard on the city council a number of times, build it downtown, not out here. Hey, Keene has no problem building and approving housing way above the affordable point. The housing up by Market Basket, the housing up by Wickham Road. Hey, no problem at all. They may cost $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 each, but no problem. Sometimes they're classified as the right people, and plus, those are the people that vote, and those are the people that show up at the city council meeting. And so now, if this family can only pay $750, and I need $1,500 to break even, why would I build affordable housing when I can use that land or whatever and build high-end housing and make a greater profit? I may build a $500,000 high-end property and make $100,000 and walk away with the cash. It's hardly no problem at all. So in Keene, it would be not my backyard. Then the city would have to change zoning ordinance and stuff. The developers would have to come up with a plan and get it past the planning board, the zoning, and all that. Things that are out of control sometimes of the city council. Okay, we got to do, and then you got to get it financed. Got to get a loan, get it financed. No bank is going to authorize you a loan on this unless they know you're going to be able to So what's going to happen? $750, it's all this family can pay, but I need $1,500 to break even. Okay? the city is going to have to reduce some costs, maybe reduce some fees, a number of things to bring that cost down. The state of New Hampshire is going to have to come up with some money, like the New Hampshire Community Revolving Trust or whatever, to give me some low interest loans or pay for some. So like the on Washington Street, where they're going to make affordable apartments, the one on Marlboro, both of those developers were giving grants. So the one on Washington Street, $500,000. So the individual organization that develops it does not have to pay $500 worth of planning and designs and all that kind of stuff, because they've already got a grant to do that. And basically, that's $500,000 he or she organization doesn't have to take. Okay? Then the state of New Hampshire is going to have to give me tax. If I'm the individual, you're going to have to give me tax breaks. The federal government is going to have to give me tax breaks. And then the federal government says, then the federal government is going to have to give me, well, the federal government is going to have to give the state money, and the state is going to have to give like Southwest or Keene Housing to pay for the vouchers. And those vouchers would cover the cost. Okay, so I may get $200 a month reduction in cost and fees and all that kind of stuff. I may get $150 a month in tax credits and tax deductions, all that would be tax credits. So now I'm $350, and now I'm only $400 off. Okay, so now HUD and federal government are going to have to give me, if I have 100 people there, an average of $400 per unit in vouchers, so I can afford to build it and have a reasonable expectation I'm going to make some money on the project. Yep, it's like it turns out that building affordable housing is not particularly affordable. In fact, there's a huge gap between what those buildings cost to construct and maintain and the rents most people can pay. Without the help of too scarce government subsidies for creating, preserving, and operating affordable apartments, building these homes is often impossible. Development costs a lot of money. Developers rely on loans and other sources to fund construction before people move in and stop paying rent. But developers can only get those loans and equity sources if the development will provide enough revenue to pay back the loans and pay returns to the investors. The gap between the amount a building is expected to produce from rents and the amount developers will need to pay lenders and investors can stop affordable housing development before it even begins. So say Blackstone or Berkshire, like Warren Buffett says, oh yeah, we want to build this affordable housing. So I come up with a plan. I want to sell it to them. I want them to fund it. And they go and say, okay, we will give you $30 million. And this is what the interest payment is. But we expect 12% back on our investment. So that means if the thing is going to cost $30 million and they're expecting 12% back on their investment, which is not that big on investment property and things like that, basically I'm going to have to come up with $34 million, not counting interest. I'm going to have to pay him back $34 million. So that's a lot of money. And if the government can't guarantee me 100 vouchers to cover the difference, it's too risky for me to build affordable housing. In Denver, the family of three is $72,100. So 60% means a family taking home $42,000. Means the family, and then 30% means the family earns $21,000. A married telemarketer who earns $36,544 in Denver, slightly less than the 60% AMI for a family of two. A family working full-time but earning minimum wage, which in Colorado is slightly above the federal minimum, would just be over 30%, but still below. And so if you don't, you got to fall in those categories. If you don't fall in those categories, you don't get vouchers or limit your vouchers. Okay, for example, in 2020, there were 6.3 million people who were, by the U.S. Census, were considered working poor. Working poor for a family of three is $24,860. There's kids who are in high school, some, but there's other kids in college that will earn that amount of money. Okay, now you want to buy a house, affordable house in Keene. How can you afford affordable house? What are the rules for affordable housing in Keene? For affordable home ownership, 35% of the median income. So I think the median income in Keene is $60,000. It's a little bit lower, but so we get 60,000 times 0.35. So you get 21,000. Okay, so 21,000 divided by 12 says you're affordable, for you to get a mortgage, it's $1,750. Which is, can't be that amount of money, but it's still a lot of money. But what do you have to do for that? Let's see. So we go, how much house? Yeah, come on. Okay, right here. 1,750 more. How much can you get? If you have halfway decent credit and your interest rate would be in the 7, you at 7.69 rate, 30, that's just shy of 17. That's the rate, 1,700 and interest. What does that? $1,500 a month buys you $225,000. That's what you get for a mortgage. 750 will buy you about $235,000. So, say you put a 10% down. That means you're still going to have to closing and everything to do that for 17. You're going to need about 30,000 at 10%. You have to come up with, say, $30,000 down payment, closing, all that other kind of stuff. So, say your house is worth $260, and good old here in Keene, $260 times. Whoa. Okay, here's a little trick. So you find a house in Keene for $260, $260K. So if you put the money down, to get that you need about $30,000, 10% down, halfway decent good credit, 7.69%, and it says you got $1,750 affordable. Okay, but that $150, that includes property tax. Well, at $32 per $1,000 and $260, you have to pay $8,320 a year in property taxes, which comes out to $693. Then homeowners insurance for that would come out to be about $200 a month. So that's $893. So basically, okay, 893. You got to find a house for $857. You know what? You're buying a manufacturing housing or a mobile home, because for $260,000 in Keene, you're going to buy an old house. My house is, I think it's evaluated at about, Zillow says about 280. But my house is almost 105 years old. So if you want to buy, quote, affordable housing, you're going to have to find something 70, 80, 90, even 100 years old. Okay? Just that alone is going to cost you $1,700 to $1,800 a month just to get in an old house. Then you throw in city tax, state tax, school tax, county tax, and insurance. And hopefully you're not in a flood zone. Because if you have a mortgage, flood insurance is mandatory. So what would happen is, for basically, if you were to buy my house, and I'm not selling, with 10% down and stuff, and looking at that, you're going to be paying about $26,500 to $27,500 a month. That's over $1,000 more than affordable housing. Even if we went back to the VA, where the GI Bill housings that were being built after World War II in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, like the ones we have down here on off Marlborough Street, 900 square feet, 1,000 square feet, you're going to be hard pressed to get money to get in there. And if you're making $60,000 a year and you don't have parents or relatives or grandparents that can help give you money for the down payment and closing costs, you're really in a bad pickle. Because say you and your wife are working, you're making $60,000 a year, and you're $60,000, so you're going to need 3-bedroom place because you plan on staying there for a while. And and here you're living in Keene, and a lot of women don't get paid a lot of money here in Keene. Keene is really unfair when it comes to wages for women. And to 60,000, a little bit 60,000 plus, that averages about $14.50 an hour. Okay. So if you can't afford a house, you can't afford to buy a house. And buying a house is really important, because if you buy a starter house, you build out wealth, you sell that house and you buy a bigger house, and then a bigger house. But Keene and New Hampshire talk about affordable housing. And really, looking at the numbers, where's the money going to come from? Even if the people pay 40% of their income for housing, 40%. Okay. Where does the other part come from? Affordable housing requires the government to subsidize rents. And that becomes a serious issue. And the serious issue is, I went to Japan. And what I noticed in Japan, grandmothers and great-grandmothers are extremely important. They live with the family. They take care of the children. So my mother-in-law's in a nursing home, $14,000 a month. Grandma in Japan is in the home. She's 75, taking care of her grandchildren and some of her great-grandchildren. And guess what? Mom can work, and mom doesn't have to worry about paying $15,000, $20,000 a day at a child care center, which is just babysitting. Grandma and great-grandma are helping educate the children. And we're not paying all this money. We're not having people work their whole lives, have to go in nursing homes and die destitute. Because as soon as they're in, they run out of the money, they go on Medicaid. The state puts a lien on that property, and when that property's sold, the state gets first dib. It wants its money back. And when you look at $14,000, so you're looking at, say, $170,000 a year. So if you have a $350,000 home, if mom had a $350,000 home and she dies, and she's been in a nursing home and on Medicaid for 2 years, you kids ain't getting anything because there are no assets to be distributed. Okay? But here in the United States, we have a crisis coming. And I don't like to use that word very often because it's so overblown. It's like this is the most important election in my lifetime. Wow, I've been having elections since 72, and that's 28. This will be the 52. And so look at all this. This will be my 13th election. So this will be my 13th most important election in my lifetime. Okay. The American grandma and the American great-grandmas are falling into the position where they are going to be screwed over. Plain and simple. We're in peak baby booming time. A lot of them have retired at 62, losing 25% of their Social Security. So a lot of the men are dying off, and you got these women in their 70s and 80s. So if a woman's lucky, she's getting $1,600 a month for Social Security. And so maybe she doesn't have to pay Medicare because she's got so low income. Okay? So that means she's making $1,600. She's clearing $1,600. That means she has $19,000 a year. $19,000 a year. Okay? There are a lot of business owners. There's a lot of business owners in Keene, property owners, and I've seen it before. I saw what happened to the people we had when I bought my house. There was an old couple in their 70s next door. Keene State College was, that's when the mayor was the director of finance, and Keene State College was growing. And he, to pay for everything, they had to bring more students in. And the landlord went to the couple and says, you can stay, but your rent's going from $700 a month to $2,000 a month. Of course, they had to leave. Okay. There are a bunch of property owners in Keene who care less about the people. There are some that are really good, but they're property owners that care less. Their number one thing is I'm going to max my profit. I'm going to screw my tenants as much as I can to get every single penny, nickel, and dime out of them. Okay? I'm going to keep the heat low. You know, not going to do very much upgrading or anything. Just enough that I stay out of trouble. Okay? So now, just think. A woman, 1 bedroom, 1 kitchen, maybe 3-4 room apartment. So, landlord comes in and says, I'm raising your rent from $900 to $1,200 a month. At $900 a month, that's almost $10,000, leaving her for $9,000 a year. So basically, $750 a month to buy her food, to do all that other thing, you know, pay a co-pay, different things. Okay, so the landlord comes in and says, you know what, this $950 a month, you know, that's not the going rate. I'm going to raise it to $1,250 a month. It's still below what other people are paying. She can beg and say, I can't afford this. I'm 70 years old. I'm 72 years old. I can't get any income. I'm hurting. I get this and I get this wrong. Sorry. If you can't find it, move out. Well, the city of Keene in Southwest, there's not that much money there to build more elderly housing. And the elderly housing that's been built, when you go down by the mill, not the old mills, and by the Marriott, that ain't there for poor. Well, if you go in the brick building, yeah, but if you go in the other 2 recently built ones, no. You have to have money to fit in there. So you go $1,250 a month out. Where's the lady go? I was told at that public meeting, we have a lady that's over 80 years old that's homeless, that we're taking care of. 80 years old. Who would think that you would see a homeless 80-year-old person? Well, it's basically tough. My hair is to make money. We have really developed into kind of a really compassionless society. We want to screw as much out of people as possible so I can be as wealthy as possible. So now $300 a month, that brings that woman, that 72-year-old lady, down to $450. You try living on $450. You try living on $15 a day. That means you're going to have to count on Meals on Wheels. You got to hope you don't get sick. You got to keep your heat really low. You got to keep turning all the lights off. That's the crisis that's coming. We're going to have over 30 million women 65 and older within the next year or 2, and a lot of them, the vast majority of them, will be getting less than $2,000 a month to live. That's it for the rest of their lives. And then in the inflation, they'll never keep up with the inflation rate. Well, inflation went up 3%. Okay, you get 3%, you get $2,000, we'll give you $60. But, Medicare is going to go up too. But my rent went, $60 a month. My rent went up. Groceries went up. Packages shrunk. Groceries. I bought an ice cream and I opened the box and the box is the same. I opened the package. The ice cream was like this. I could fit the whole ice cream in my mouth. I go, what the heck's going on? So, what are we going to do? No one is going to build affordable housing unless the government subsidizes it, unless the government guarantees they're going to write a paycheck to that landlord every month at a certain amount. Otherwise, we now have what used to be affordable housing. The landlords are giving up the tax credits because, wait, like I showed here, I was paying that person was paying $540. Oh, I can get $1,100 a month now. It's going to be screw the tax credits, get rid of low-income people, and I'm bringing in low-income people at the higher level. So technically, I'm following the letter of the law, not the spirit, because I'm making much greater profit and more people are out in the streets. And then the local government has to pay for motel rooms and housing for the people that can't afford to get in the house. We're paying either way. The question is, what is going to be the moral thing to do in the long run? And I don't think too many people want to answer that question. And so, good day.